Hey everybody, JJ here. Today is Saturday, September 10th, and I am really, really pleased to bring you an unbelievable guest speaker for today. Um, we've been bringing in coaches and investors. This young lady today is a mom. She is an entrepreneur. She is wife, housekeeper, business owner, uh, acquisitions manager, closer extraordinaire, real estate entrepreneur, businesswoman, and is renowned in her educational area, which is the Sept community, which is run by Pace Morby, who I think a lot of you know. We talk about Pace every week. But today we're going to be talking to my good friend, Jennifer Shelton. Jennifer, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Oh, well, I led with the meat and potatoes, right? Yeah. So glad to have you here. So yeah, let's just wanted to chat a little bit, get to know you. What part of the country are you from, for those that don't know you?
I am in SoCal. My husband and my two little girls live here. So that is who you hear chatting away in the background. She's playing with herself. So she's having fun.
Yeah. Did you grow up in LA? I mean, from one of the local high schools, or?
I grew up in Orange County and then went to college up in LA and stayed in LA and then met my husband. And after we had kiddos, decided to move to a little safer part of town in the suburbs here in OC.
There you go. Can't blame you for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
LA is a crazy real estate market. And when it
Yeah.
comes to raising kids, there's you know, there are some markets that are a little bit better. So that's a Orange County, the OC is a great place that when you guys become investors and want to move, there's just hills down there and occasionally views of the ocean. And since it's newer developments decade wise, a lot of the communities are just a lot more uniquely laid out to your convenience. It's kind of a cool place. So how many kids do you have?
Two little girls, a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Fantastic. So, when did you decide you want to get into real estate? Was it something you got introduced to in college, or?
You know what? I actually had no desire to get into real estate after we sold our first two houses. Or I should say our first house. Bought and sold house up in LA. I used actually, I shouldn't say I used. One of my closest friends from college was our realtor, and it was just like so stressful. Like it just seemed so stressful. I'm like, I couldn't imagine myself in her role. And so that kind of put this fear inside of me. Like, I don't want to ever do real estate. But my husband was he's a millennial, always like a huge YouTuber. So always searching for how to gain financial freedom, and decided that real estate was the way. And he was following a lot of gurus, but Pace for 2 years. And then finally he just said, like, this is the guy. And he was always like trying to put his phone in front of my face, being like, just watch this as I'm washing dishes or making dinner. And when he showed me Pace's seller call, I was like, oh, wow, this guy is cool. And the rest was history. We joined a couple of years ago and never looked back. And, at first I was kind of tiptoeing and watching training sessions, and then got to a point in those where I was just kind of feeling antsy. And I think a lot of us get that way, where it's just the information no longer made sense because I wasn't doing it. So I stopped watching and just went and made a bunch of mistakes so I could learn and fail forward. And it's been awesome. Now I'm like all in 100%.
So you went right into Sept. You weren't doing things beforehand. You just kind of your husband jumped in and that's when you got into it.
Well, we actually dabbled in wholesaling, like rogue. He started calling people in LA, and we went to visit a few properties out there, but it didn't go anywhere because we didn't know about, we actually didn't know about creative financing then. And the property that we were working with, he had mentioned, well, I really like you guys, but this other investor has
has made me a better offer, even though I'm not loving his terms, and we had no idea what that meant. So now fast forward after we got into, sub two and learned about creative, now terms makes perfect sense. And that's a lot of what we do. So we're always looking to first hold for our rental portfolio. And obviously it's like buying creatively is ideal, but we have bought cash as well. And things that don't make sense for us to hold in our portfolio, we wholesale.
I know when I got into Sub 2 started, I'm still learning every day that there are certain titles that have been used of the acquisitions manager, dispo manager, the integrator, the transaction coordinator, the visionary. Do you see yourself having multiple hats here, all of the hats, or anyone in particular? How do you, for those that are using those acronyms or those titles, how do you define yourself? Maybe I might ask.
So when I first started, I mean, I'm solopreneur, right? Most of us are solopreneurs. And so I was, my husband was the integrator and I was the acquisitions person, like more of the visionary direct to sale person. And he set up all of our systems and was pulling lists. As he got more busy with his W-2 job, he wasn't able to be as involved. So I was trying to do everything, like make the going to do everything from soup to nuts, and was getting like bottlenecked. Like I just wanted more deals because I have a sales background and I've always loved and thrived on talking to people, talking to sellers. And so that's what drives me. That's what gives me energy. That's what I wake up wanting to do. And if I'm not talking to sellers, it gives me anxiety. Like I need to talk to somebody. So I was getting bottlenecked on the back end. And then, we had a VA and that took time, with like training and whatnot. So I learned, especially now if my girls have gotten more, not needy and like they can't manage themselves, but they're young. So they want more attention and want more activity. But I've had to leverage the time I have. I've had to leverage the time that I have really mainly by squatting up with other, not just sub 2 people, but people outside of sub 2, other wholesalers, bird dogs, people who are finding me properties in my markets. So I've really squatted up more because I'd rather have, as they say, a piece of the watermelon than the whole grape. And I'm just kind of like, let's get it done and let's move on so I can close more deals.
That's fantastic. So I know Southern California is a tough market. Are you working exclusively here? Are you working around the country? Anyone in particular around the country?
It's funny because when we first started, we had a VA and we did what you're not supposed to do, which was blanket the United States. We weren't focused. And on top of it, it was a pre-foreclosure list. So even more challenging. But from that, we did make good traction. We talked to people and it just kept like narrowing the markets down. So we went to 5 markets, then 3 markets. And it just so happened that the first state where we bought our first property, which was a cash deal, was in Indiana. And in that process, we built a lot of local relationships since we have never been there before, and began to build a network. And now that is actually our primary virtual market. And SoCal is, our backyard and secondary actually, but it is where I'm putting more focus on now than I have in the past.
The kids are now 3 and 6, and you guys live in Orange County. Are you looking as for the future, for the long run, of staying in Southern California, or getting maybe more acreage somewhere, moving to the forest or the woods or the mountains, or have any vision like that?
Yeah, we have lots of visions. Yeah, of that. But now, now that they're little and they have a school that they can walk to, and we love the school. I hate to say this word, but we're kind of stuck here, for lack of a better word. I mean, we want that stability for them, but really the dream is to have multiple properties, investments, and ideally Airbnbs that we can actually go to. Like even, I mean, California's so big that it takes 2 hours to get to Malibu, maybe more, maybe 3 hours. So it'd be nice to have an Airbnb in Malibu where we could go and hang out there. And then of course there's Huntington and Newport, which is 45 minutes, and we could go there. So yes. And my husband's from Texas, so we want to have a property there so that we can go and visit his family more often and have a place to stay. And
and with the advent of Airbnbs, that obviously makes that more of a likelihood.
Exactly. It really does.
You've been called the queen of acquisitions. You are renowned. Tell me a little bit about, for those that are maybe new to the call or new to YouTube watching the video right now, for acquisitions in real estate, what all does that entail for someone who say like 2 weeks in and I don't know anything?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I was 4 months into the mentorship, the Pace Morby mentorship, and there was a competition, like a role play competition. And so my accountability leader in my local market here, SoCal, was like, you need to enter. And I was like, ugh, but I barely know I just started, it's been only 4 months. But it's one of those, like I always have in my mind that if I say no to something, am I going to regret it? Like, what is the alternative to failing is like regret, which is worse in my mind. So I did that competition and I won, and it was all dudes, a bunch of dudes, because most of this industry is. And nobody knew who I was, but I won. So everybody then knew who I was, like at least in that mentorship, and they crowned me queen closer. So that's how that name that came about. And at first I was like kind of shy about it. But now I'm like, I should just own that. So I've really been taking that and running with it and trying to, encourage, I tell my daughters a lot about it. They're like, oh, just because they're obsessed with princesses and queens. So just trying to empower them too, to say, you know what, mommy did this and you can do it too. And trying to instill confidence and not being afraid to fail by putting themselves out there. So that is where queen closer kind of acquisitions came from.
No, you're fantastic. You're amazing. Let me ask you, have you done, I mean, obviously you have a lot of knowledge now, you know what you're doing. Do you have a podcast? Have you thought about a podcast, or you speaking on other platforms?
I have
who you are, what you do.
Yeah, I have thought and talked about a podcast. I haven't done that yet, but it has been topic of conversation. I try to post a lot on Instagram, like reels, and finally launched a YouTube channel a couple months ago and been posting there. And so podcast is something that I want to be able to do, but I know in order to do that, it needs to be something you can consistently do. And so I have to be committed to that.
Yeah. Mike Gomes has a podcast. Maybe, there's a couple of people out there. Mike Gomes out of Sept 2.
Oh yeah. He's great.
Yeah. I'm now that I've been doing this, I have a little bit more exposure to that. And I think it's always fun when someone asks me to speak, which is rare, but it's always fun. So, see, what else can we tie into here? Talked about the family, talked about the occupation, recreation. What do you like doing for fun? What maybe before you got, obviously with the kids, it changed the dynamic of the vacations a little bit. But before kids, when the kids get bigger, is there snow skiing, surfing? I mean, what's been your thing through your life? What do you like to do? What's Jennifer like to do?
Well, I'm really into fitness. I'm a Pilates instructor on the side. So that's always been, it was my, kind of side income that I had before real estate. But also the reason why I got into it is because I was doing it and I like to do it. And so I still do it pretty much almost every day, maybe 5 days a week or so. So I'm really into just staying fit for a few reasons, because my kids always want me to pick them up and they're getting bigger. So it's like, I got to stay strong for them so I can keep picking them up and put them on my back and run and play with them. And also because I just mentally, I found, for instance, when I was doing that competition, in front of a bunch of people, it was nerve-wracking. So for me, to help with my nerves, it was exercise. So I use it also as an outlet for nerves. And I know, like, for all the parents out there who have kids at home and are trying to work since COVID, it's hard and it's stressful and it's easy to get frustrated. So that's like my outlet, is I have to just release that energy so I can be a better mom, better wife, better, person on the phone, trying to do deals.
Yeah, no, it's so important to
I don't
have
know if that answered your question. Did that answer your
Yeah,
question?
no, you did. Yeah, your sport, your health and fitness is a huge part of who you are. What about traveling? Any plans for traveling, anything like that you want to do? Or
Yeah, we'd love to travel. But that's what we're doing this for, is to have that passive income so that we don't have to feel so that we have more freedom to travel,
yeah,
and
yeah,
to go where we want to go.
that's the big benefit, I think, of real estate. It's nice to close a deal where there's money transacted, but with real estate, if it involves locations that we can go to and stay at, and you mentioned Airbnbs earlier, that just facilitates travel and an opportunity to see the world, which I think is pretty cool all the way around. I don't know if I'm asking anything. I'm having certain questions come to my head here, but did you have what were some of the biggest challenges you had that you had maybe had to overcome, whether it be, I don't know, you don't seem shy to me, so I don't think shyness would have been one of your issues, but what's some of the things you think that you've taken on, that you've accomplished and made you better at what you do?
That's a really good question. So yeah, no, I've never been shy. But I have been insecure about my knowledge, especially when you're new to this industry and you're talking to people who are veterans. You're talking, like, I'm talking to a portfolio owner who's been doing this for 30 years and has 30 properties. And I'm coming in like with, a couple of years experience, or even back then with my first time talking, like 6 months experience. Getting over that hump is, I'm just all about fake it till you make it. And just coming in with your confidence. And that's where, like, taking deep breaths, doing some jumping jacks, affirmations. I am awesome. I am a closer. I'm intelligent, just telling yourself those things so that when you get on a call with this, portfolio veteran seller, you're able to connect and see eye to eye, and so that he sees you, because it was eye to eye rather than looking down at you. Especially, I think, as a woman, that happens too. So that was one of the biggest challenge, is mindset. Another big challenge, which still is having kids at home and having children run in while you're talking to somebody. But then that held me back for a while, and I was always waiting for the right time, having my dad come over to watch them, going locking myself in a closet or something. But now, I'd say after 6 months of doing that, I've really embraced it. So if I'm on the phone and they walk in wanting something, it's not ideal, and it still kind of gives me a little anxiety about it, but I don't try to pretend like it's not happening. Instead, I make light of it. Like, oh my gosh, I'm sure you can hear my 3-year-old. She is dying for a snack right now. Can you still hear me? And they're like, oh. It actually breaks the ice. They're like, I've had somebody, a woman, tell me, oh, well, you know what? I'm so glad to hear that, because now I know you're a real person. Like, there's so many scams out there, and I just don't know who I'm talking to anymore. Others, my sellers, because, I think one of my strengths in talking to people is empathy and rapport. So by the time we get to the closing table, I've had my sellers say, like, oh, I feel like I know your family now, and I know your girls. How are they doing? And I'm going to miss talking to you. And we stay in contact. So instead of trying to wait for the perfect opportunity to talk to somebody on the phone, there's never a perfect opportunity.
Never.
Yeah. So I just do it. Try not to overthink about it.
Yeah. Two of the questions I get, like, are you busy? Like constantly,
Yes.
when's a good time to talk? Like never.
Yeah,
You just got to make time. You just got to
exactly.
call me, text me when you're free, and hit and miss. But yeah, no, I can imagine, like you said, you're doing a business, you got the kids, and running a household, and you're amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I was looking at the chat over here as you were talking, and your Instagram page is getting quite a lot of acclaim.
Oh,
And,
good.
yeah, so I had to. Can I show your Instagram page?
Sure.
This should be your Instagram, right?
Yes.
Queen Closer. I love that. Yeah, you know what? I love your stuff. You've got the family, the kids. I love how you have these titles in here, these little captions. Yeah, this is great. This is great. And of course, you're on Facebook.
I am on Facebook, but to be honest, I don't. So when I have everything synced up, linked up. So when I post on Instagram, it automatically goes to my Facebook feed.
Okay.
That's really all I use Facebook for, really, is to interact with other investors.
And myself as well. I think people ask a lot all the time, newer investors, I don't want to be on Facebook. I don't want to be having all my stuff out there. All I use it for is business. And I don't put anything out there that I'm not comfortable sharing in a professional environment. So, yeah, I love the pictures of the kids. You're rocking there and got the arms going. So
yeah, it's kind of a Pace actually. One time we were talking, and he just said, "You need to post more. You just need to record your calls and post them." And I was recording them, obviously, in my CRM, right? So I was getting the audio link, but not the visual. And I was like, you're right. I should just kill two birds with one stone, not try to make content because of time. If you have time to go record something specifically for YouTube or do something that's more polished, that's awesome. But I don't have that time, or I haven't made that time right now. So for me, messy is fits, messy is good. This is how these calls usually go. And just kind of leaning into my personality. And this is, so I just, they're always live seller calls is what I'm posting right now.
Awesome. Hey, somebody asked me a question recently. I'll flip it at you. Is there any particular book that you've read that really stands out to you? And I know there's a whole bunch of them getting passed away all the time.
Yeah, that's such a good question. So I had not read a book for 5 years since before having kids. And even before I had kids, it was nonfiction. Nonfiction is, no, it was fiction. Fiction is make believe, right? Fiction.
Yeah.
So they were never self-help books. And then I did the 75 hard, and part of the 75 hard is you have to read 10 pages a night of a self-help book, some sort of, whatever it might be. And so I have finally read some really fantastic books over the last year. And one was the Miracle Morning for parents and families. I read the regular Miracle Morning for millionaires, which was great. But then I got to a point where when you have kids, things are, I need a little bit more that fed into that part of my life. So I read his other book, which I just finished, and that was great. And then Secrets of the Millionaire Mindset, or the Millionaire Mind, is that what it's called? Yeah, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. That was really incredible as well, because it's really about just changing your blueprint of how you were raised to think and feel about money. Because how your parents or grandparents were is how you most likely are now. And if you don't change that blueprint, then you subconsciously follow in their footsteps. So that was another great book. Those are the two.
Good. Excellent. I will add those to my book list of books to read.
Yes.
Cool. So, one of the things I talk to folks about as far as how they use their social media, what should they put out there. And again, it was the acronym FORD: Family, Occupation, Recreation, and Dreams. And the last thing I wanted to ask you about was dreams. I guess we kind of touched on that. I mean, you're going to be in Southern California now with the kids for a while with their school, but what are your other, I don't know, whether it be travel dreams for your home, or what are some of the things that are kind of on your wish list or bucket list?
Well, we would like enough cash flowing properties so that, like, I know my husband would as well, but I guess I'll say because for me, enough cash flowing properties so that we have enough passive income to, replace my husband's income and more, so that he can retire from the W-2 and we can live more freely and travel more and set up a legacy for the girls so that money is not an issue. That would be, and take care of our parents.
Yeah. And pretty much like anybody else, family and with financial freedom brings time and time spent with our family. I'm going to wrap it up shortly, but I wanted to ask you a couple more things. You become an inspiration for so many investors, women and men, and leading by example and showing people that as you said, you were in a matter of weeks and you want to had put you on the throne of, but with the group that I've got going on, for the new investors that don't see it, how important is networking for the new investor to build it?
Definitely not a thing to do by yourself, for few reasons. It's hard, and it's nice to have emotional support. And then also because you can get more deals done, and then it makes things more, at least for me and for a lot of other people who kind of gone from solopreneur to building their network, is every deal becomes that much more meaningful. It's a teamship, it's like you've done this together and you've built more relationships. And so networking has been so key. Like, for instance, there's 2 students who brought me a deal in Virginia. I don't have any footprint in Virginia, but they wanted a queen closer. So they passed the reins to me, and I've been following up with this woman. She's, we've built some really great rapport, but at the end of the day, she wants somebody there local who can come see the property, who she can talk to. So thankfully, because of networking, like within, a few hours, I was able to connect with somebody who literally lives 10 minutes from her house. And he went there this morning with his wife to go take photos. And he might potentially also be like a financial partner. And if I didn't have that network, if I hadn't talked to the other people who had introduced me to him, hadn't put myself out there on the, different platforms and whatnot, they wouldn't have known me. So it's been so beneficial to help find buyers, financial partners, boots on the ground, just all of the above.
I'm noticing on your Instagram, you've got 2,000 you got 1,200 followers.
I'd like to get to 2,000.
Yeah, no, I was either 199, but you're 2/3 of the way there. That's great. That's great.
I see a question from Iffy. Advice for folks who want to acquire property in tenant-friendly states. Were you squirmish about getting buy and holds in California at the beginning of your journey? So the answer is yes. We were squirmish, which is why we decided to go virtual. And then that's why we chose Indiana as our buy and hold state, because it is landlord friendly. But if I could do it again, I would have focused on my backyard, because California is an awesome market regardless. Yes, the margins are slimmer, but the prices are higher, and it's in our backyard, and it's always going to be a desirable place to live. So I would have just focused on my backyard more, done driving for deals a lot more. I did that a little bit, but I would have focused on that, squatted up with local people, because it's pretty cool to be able to physically go to a home and walk it and meet the homeowner face to face. I do that, majority virtual, and it works, but nothing replaces that in person. So I wouldn't let the naysayers in California say that. It's usually people who don't live here. So
yeah. Actually, Samantha's been driving for dollars for months now, and she's got an unbelievable list. And maybe we'll just have to connect ourselves.
I would love to.
Are you open to people if they have maybe need help with a deal that they might want to squat up with you? I'm reluctant to put you out there for hours of free coaching because that's not what you do. But if somebody wanted to squat up with you, they just message you on Instagram.
Yeah, I would love to squat up. I am always, I mean, like I said, that's where a lot of my business is in JV deals. So I'm always happy to help, especially help negotiate and talk to sellers and help lock things up. That's the way a lot of my deals go, actually.
Now, are you on Facebook some or not much? People bother sending you a friend request or message on Facebook?
I'm on Facebook. Yeah, I'm a lot in the chat. I'm a lot in Messenger, I should say.
Okay. And guys, don't forget, if you send Jennifer a friend request on Facebook, send a message also. Introduce yourself. Hey, I was on your Zoom presentation with JJ, and I'm on add you as a friend, and I'm also in Sept too. But do that and don't send anonymous friend requests. Only people wondering who you are, but definitely contact her, reach out to her.
Those are the ones that sit there and just sit in my in my request box. So if you follow up with a direct message, I'll be like, oh, okay, I do know you.
There you go. Jen, I want to thank you for coming on today. I know you're juggling many irons in the fire, and really appreciate your time. Can you stick around maybe for a couple of minutes of a breakout room?
Of course.
Great. For those of you guys that are watching us on YouTube today, please click like below on the video, and please put some notes in the comments. Those of you that are on the call, hang on, because we're going to breakout rooms. You may be in a breakout room with Jennifer Shelton herself. So everybody else watching, please come back for more. We're going to have Kessa Glasgow of Sept 2 coming up on Wednesday, and more Paces folks, and just more good speakers. So please come back for more. Join my networking group. Look for me on Instagram, as well as, let's see, Gent Shelton at Instagram. That's her handle over there. And just thank you everybody for everything and participating. We love that. And over and out, everybody in the call, stick around.